Hey everybody, Mungo Dark Matter here, and welcome to Dark Matters. Today on Dark Matters, I'm going to discuss when Windows version 11 is going to come out. If you're new here, consider subscribing to the channel, and also consider clicking on the bell icon so you will be notified of new videos and live streams when they come out. So, Microsoft has said that Windows 10 is the last version of Windows for the foreseeable future, or until they decide different. So basically what their new scheme is they're going to keep Windows 10 as the name of Windows, and they're going to do updates or feature packs or major updates of Windows that will come out every fall and every spring. So you'll get 2 updates. And you've probably already noticed over the last year or two, they've pushed out some bigger updates that took a while and changed a few features on Windows and maybe even changed the interface slightly. The last one came out in September of 2017. One of the versions was called the Creators version before that, and then they called this latest one, I think, the Fall Creators version or something. I don't know what they're going to call this next one, but it's going to come out in March of 2018, in the spring. And they're going to continue that kind of update schedule. So like every March and I think every September, you can kind of expect a new version of Windows coming out. But they're not going to really change the version number or anything, although they haven't ruled that out in the future. So that's basically how they're naming Windows now and naming the versions. Now they have a history of this. They started out naming Windows with numbers, and they got to version 3.1. And they said, you know, version numbers are kind of confusing. Let's use years. That will make more sense to the consumer. So in 1995 and 1998, they had Windows 95 and Windows 98. Then they came up with a version called Windows Me or Windows Millennium version, which really they don't admit to ever having done anymore because they pushed out XP pretty quickly after that. And Windows version XP makes no sense because that does not make it easier for anyone to remember that version, because it neither has a version number or a year, so you don't know when XP came out. They kept XP for a pretty long time, and then they finally came out with Vista, which nobody liked. So then they said, hey, let's go back to numbers. Maybe people will forget about Vista. So they went to version number 7, and if you count all the versions of Windows, at least I haven't been able to get to 7. I think you have to drop a version or 2 to get from Windows 3 to 7 correctly somehow, or even if you drop a version or add a version, there's missing a version in there or something. So that makes no sense. Also, when they got to version 8, they didn't do a version 9, they did a version 10. So maybe the version numbers are confusing because you don't consistently use numbers or anything. You just name it really whatever you want. So they got to version 10. Now they decided, you know, we've been copying Macintosh for some time. Windows, or the Windows operating system, was actually a copy of Macintosh. Macintosh was the first consumer computer system to have a windowing system on it, or at least the first major one. And it became very popular, so Microsoft created Windows, kind of copying Macintosh. And over the years, as Macintosh got different features and different looks on their operating system, Microsoft has gone, hey, that's pretty cool, and they've kind of incorporated some of the features or the looks into their operating system as well. So they've been copying them the whole time, and what Macintosh does with versions now is they got to, ironically enough, version 10, which is, they use a Roman numeral X to represent 10, which is even cooler than just a regular 10. So they use that to represent their latest operating system, and then they stopped changing the number. They just call it OS or Mac OS X or Mac OS 10, and then they come up with a different version that they use some sort of code name. Like they used to use animals, like Snow Leopard was one version. Now they use places like Sierra. There was a Sierra version, and now the latest version is High Sierra. So who knows where they'll go with after that with the Mac OS. Macintosh has had the creators version, and I think the last one they called the Fall creators version. But they don't really, advertise that as much or push it as much. It's just so they have something to call it. So for the foreseeable future, you will not see a version 11 of Windows. Now, you may at some point see a version of 11 because Microsoft has a history of changing the way they number versions or name versions. But for right now, Microsoft considers Windows kind of a service, and so that they're going to continually improve Windows and just keep the name Windows 10. I'm Mungo Dark Matter, and this has been Dark Matters. And whatever you do, enjoy technology.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.